What's up, guys? Welcome to Bay Area Real Estate News You Can Use. I am Adam Dobrinich, local real estate agent here in the Bay Area. This is the one and only George Morales with Envoy Mortgage, your loan officer extraordinaire. We are excited to be chatting with you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We are going to be giving you all the information that you need about what's happening here in the Bay Area real estate market.
It's been an interesting week and a half or so since we last chatted, and I'm excited. I think there's a lot of opportunity happening right now in real estate. I think for all parties, the folks in the business, but also consumers. I think one of these things that has been happening, or that you guys may or may not have heard about in the news, is really a good opportunity for a lot of consumers, and it's going to promote some transparency, and there's going to be some changes. So I won't dive too deep into it before you kind of get us rolling here, but anything top of mind? What have you seen here last week, week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah, definitely. So if you guys have not seen the news, there was a big lawsuit between consumers and the National Association of Realtors, and that lawsuit kind of morphed into a big class action lawsuit that recently got settled. And essentially what is happening is that there is a decoupling of commissions. The primary thing is, do buyers now need to pay the commissions for the buyer's agent? Just a quick history lesson. Usually what happens when a seller signs a listing agreement with a listing agent, if I'm a listing agent and I am listing a property for 5%, I will offer a certain percentage of that to the buyer's agent as their compensation for bringing a buyer to that property. That is no longer happening. Wow. Yeah.
So that's no longer happening. How does a buyer agent, or how does a buyer pay for their representation in this case going forward then?
There's a lot of questions, and there's kind of, a lot of gray area that we need to work through in the next, coming months and year, and, that kind of thing. But essentially what is happening is no longer are listing agents allowed in the MLS to offer compensation to a buyer's agent. So I know we're going to dive into this a little bit further, but George, I'd love to hear, because you've been having those conversations with realtors, buyers, sellers, and we really want buyers to understand what this actually means for them. What are those conversations looking like for you?
Yeah, so it's an interesting dynamic, right? I work with a lot of first-time home buyers when I help them secure their mortgage to be able to purchase that first home, and it can be scary. I can see how that can be scary, right? I think on one end, you see it as someone that's a consumer and looking to purchase your first home, and you're like, heck yeah, we don't have to pay an agent anymore. We don't have to, there's less commissions that are being passed around. So that means it's cheaper for home buyers and maybe sellers to potentially buy or sell a home. And then there's the other side of those headlines where it's, well, buyers now have to come out of pocket this much more money, $15,000, $20,000 more to be able to purchase their first home. There are solutions in place, and this doesn't go into effect for a couple more months, right? I believe July or so is when things are going to be finalized. And I think from now until July, there's going to be changes that are going to happen both on the loan side and on the real estate side to be able to go ahead and figure that out. But with what we know right now, the solutions that we have right now is, just like you mentioned, you were giving a little bit of a history lesson. Historically, if you were someone that was looking to purchase a home, you would come in with your down payment and your closing costs, right? Those are the general two things that you need to take care of, right? So if you're buying a $500,000 home, 3% of that as a first-time home buyer is $15,000. Then you have to have $10,000 to $12,000, $14,000 for closing costs. So that can be anywhere from $27,000 to $29,000 cash to close, right? Going forward, how that changes is the commission for the real estate agent that's representing you no longer automatically gets taken care of by the seller, because the seller, they already had the power to say no, but now more than ever are going to have more of a choice as to whether they want to offer to pay for representation on your side, meaning your real estate agent, right? And so if that seller isn't willing to pay that on your behalf, then you have to find a way to go ahead and take care of that on your end, right? So here's the three solutions, or three ways that I've really looked into after looking at loan programs, the different guidelines that are currently in place, which again might change by the time this goes live in July or whenever it goes live, assuming it goes live. The three solutions are going to be, solution number one is going to be to pay for it yourself, obviously, right? That's the no-brainer. If you have the money to be able to go ahead and pay for a real estate agent, which is going to be anywhere from 2 to 2.5%, of the purchase price is the, general fee, I guess, or I guess average fee, and all of this can be negotiated, but let's just say 2.5% of the purchase price. If you have those funds available, then great. I would strongly recommend it. The reason why I say that is because a real estate agent is really like a lawyer almost for you. They act on your behalf, specifically when you're buying on the buyer side, to represent represent you, to protect you, to go out there and get you the best deal, negotiate the best deal possible, whether it be on the purchase price or closing costs from the seller. And there's so many things that happen on the back end that maybe you don't see as a consumer, that it's like going into court without a lawyer. Who wants to go into court without a lawyer, right? Or a legal case without a lawyer.
That's correct, yeah.
So when it comes to buying a home, you want to have that representation. So option number 2 is your real estate agent that's representing you, that you have to pay for, obviously, can negotiate to have that be paid for by the seller.
That's correct.
Out of their pocket, right? And this is scenario number 2 is assuming that you see a property and there's not a lot of competition, and maybe the seller's ready to sell, it's been on the market for a little while. This is going to be, I don't want to call it easy, but a relatively simpler negotiation, right? You see a home that's listed for sale, let's say at $700,000, and you need to get your buyer's agent commission paid for. Your agent is going to go to that seller and say, hey, we're going to buy this $700,000 home from you, Mr. Seller, but we need you to take care of the commission on the buyer's agent side. The chances of the seller moving forward with that are going to be, slightly higher, right?
Yep.
But that, we all know that in real estate, especially in the Bay Area, if you're looking to buy here in the Bay Area, it's competitive out there. Regardless of what's happening with interest rates, regardless of what's happening with home prices, there are people that are looking to buy homes, and there's typically going to be competition, right? A lot of the times, depending on the area that you're buying in. And so the third solution is your real estate agent is going to help you negotiate that, but it's going to team up with your lender to strategically structure your financing to help you negotiate that and get the seller to say yes, right? Let's say there's competition in that third scenario. Let's say you're competing against 2 or 3 other buyers. Let's say the property just hit the market 2 hours ago and it's a hot home, but you want it, right? And you need to get your realtor's commission taken care of. It's for you to, it falls on you to go back to your lender and say, hey, how can I make the numbers work here to be able to make sure that the seller gets the money that they want, but then me as a buyer also get the commission that I need to be able to pay my agent and make the numbers work for me, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And so essentially what you're doing with solution number 3 is you're financing it into the loan. Correct. What's happening is and one way to do that is, let's say a home is listed at $700,000 and the seller wants $700,000 on that home. You go to your lender and say, hey lender, can you make this work for me to where my monthly payment is where I'm comfortable with, my cash to close is where I'm comfortable with, but at the same time, I get this commission taken care of for my representation. And your lender, your loan officer can go ahead and play with the numbers to say, okay, well, the seller wants $700,000. How about we increase the purchase price to $715,000? We asked them for a credit back for $15,000, and that takes care of your closing costs. So now you are able to go ahead and take care of your commission. The seller still gets the $700,000 that they want, but you get the credit that you need back from the seller to be able to cover that. And then all you need to come in with is your closing costs and your down payment.
Totally, yeah.
Which is what it would be like prior to this change happening.
No, totally. That was actually an amazing explanation of, some scenarios of how this is ultimately going to play out. The biggest thing that I've been hearing from buyers is that they're scared. They don't know if they're going to, it's already hard to buy a house. And with it being hard to buy a house, to have to come up with additional money to pay for a commission, at the end of the day, buyers just want you to know that this is actually going to be a situation where there's going to be a lot of different ways to approach this process, approach the strategy that you want to deploy in order to make sure that you can get the home that you want, that your representation, just like you would pay an attorney if you were going, into a lawsuit, you're going to pay your agent, but it doesn't necessarily have to come out of your pocket. And one of the things that, as we've been trying to decouple all of the information that we're getting so quickly and trying to digest it and how things are changing very quickly is, at the end of the day, this could actually be a really good thing for buyers, because this will likely actually weed out a lot of bad agents, because now more than ever, a buyer's agent and their responsibility to you and their responsibility to be at service to you is going to be way different. You're going to have the opportunity to interview agents and understand what their service offering is to you, and does it fit and does it match with your expectation, what you're willing to pay for that. And there's also going to be some different models that are going to come out of this, whether it's, hey, you have a full service agent that's going to go and open doors and, send letters and try to find off market properties for you, go through the negotiation and, every step. But then there might also be some agents out there that will charge a flat fee for a certain portion of, services. And really at the end of the day, it's going to be up to you, the buyer, to decide what's a good fit for you, what's within your budget, what do you need in order to help you to get that home. But it is going to make it way more competitive between agents, which at the end of the day, that that competition is going to ultimately result in much better service for buyers. And within my network of agents, and I know lots of agents that sell hundreds of millions of dollars a year in real estate, and they actually believe that sellers are going to continue to offer commissions to the buyer's agent at the end of the day. The only change that really needs to happen here is that offering just can't be on the MLS. Offering the commission upfront from a seller to a buyer's agent, if it's done outside of the MLS, actually puts the seller in kind of a strategic advantage against other properties that aren't offering a commission. Because if I'm a buyer and I really don't want to pay a commission, or I don't have the money to pay a commission, and I walk into a property that I really like, right, and that seller is offering that, and so it's money that doesn't have to come out of my pocket, well, as a seller, that puts me in a strategic advantage. And I think a lot of really good listing agents are going to be communicating that to sellers and helping them to understand the value of including that in their offering when they go to sell their home. But the really cool part about this is we mentioned this on our last recording, is the team that you work with. Unbelievably important, and it's going to be even more important than ever now. So having an agent and a lender that you can really lean on, that really understands your situation and can devise a strategy to help you to get the home that you want, whether, again, it's like you're saying, you're offering over asking price with a credit to pay for that commission, or like those other two scenarios that you have, like just being able to truly craft it, make sure the numbers still work for you as the buyer. That's really going to be kind of key going forward here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when I hear you talk about this, Adam, all I hear is two things: more transparency for the consumer, whether it's on the seller or the buyer side, which I'm always an advocate of, and then more education. Totally. And more options, actually. Yeah. So that's the third thing: more education for the consumer, buyer or seller, which I'm a huge advocate of. And then number three is more options. More options, because agents, real estate agents, and lenders, really, this impacts the entire real estate industry, have to really come in and say, this is my value proposition to you as a buyer or a seller. And now more than ever, as a buyer, you get to really see what your agent does and what kind of representation you're going to be having. And I'll tell you personally, just from working with a lot of real estate agents, they're not all the same, right? We hear it all the time, who you work with matters, and I absolutely cringe when I hear that sentence. But yeah. I see it on my end. When I see, clients that I pre-approved that are buying homes, and I see the representation they're getting. I was just talking to a realtor today that told me he negotiated a little bit more, and it was like an extra $1,000 that for most people seems like minimal, and it's like nothing, right? But he made it a point to like, I'm gonna go get an extra $1,000 for you, just because I know we can get it. And it's like, that's the kind of realtor that's going to win, because you're really going to bat for your client and have their best interest in mind to do absolutely everything in your power to get them the absolute best deal, as opposed to just getting the deal done. Because anyone can get the deal done just to keep everyone happy. Keep the seller, keep the listing agent, keep the buyer's agent, keep the consumer happy, keep the lender happy, keep everyone happy. But does it keeping your specific client, the person that you're representing, the happiest, right? Is the way I see it. So I'm excited about it. It's crazy, because I was talking to a friend of mine recently about this whole situation, and I talked to her for about 30-40 minutes, and we're going over our thoughts, opinions, and things along those lines, and we'll move on, because I know we can go on about this forever. But at the end of that, she's like, dude, you sound like you're excited about it. Like, you should not be excited about this. You're the first person I'm talking to that's like actually like ecstatic about it. And I'm like, I actually am. I think because of these three things that I mentioned: options, more transparency, and more education, which I think there is not enough of in our space. So I think it's just going to make everyone better.
I totally agree. Yeah, and I think the most important thing really is there's still a lot for us to uncover, and this is going to evolve, over time. But from what I'm seeing, a lot of really, really good agents believe that this is actually going to be a great opportunity for the real estate industry. And when I say the real estate industry, I mean the actual process of buying and selling homes, serving the consumers, everyone basically leveling up in serving their clients. And I also really do believe, the people that are complaining about this the most are the people that do 1 to 2 transactions, your brother's cousin's fiance who's, got their license 4 years ago and like I said, does 1 or 2 transactions. Right. This is not going to be great for those types of agents. Right. It's just not, because there's going to be a lot more that an agent is going to do for their client. And again, that's going to really be a good thing for anybody that's ever been on the selling side of the equation. If you've ever sold a home, you will see that those listing presentations that the agents come in with are really buttoned up. They're put together. There's tons of services on there. There's different packages that they can choose from. I think we're going to see that same thing, but on the buyer side. And I just think that that's a great opportunity for a buyer to find somebody that they really like to work with, that's really going to service them well. And so, yeah, we don't need to belabor this too much. But again, given that this is real estate news you can use, this is the newest bit of information that has hit the market, and it is important. It is on people's minds. I did want to ask you though, is there anything on the mortgage side, anything new that's happening on the mortgage side that you'd like to talk about to help educate people? I mean, that was kind of our mission with recording this, these videos, was to educate, our viewers. And is there anything on the lending side that's worth noting? Good question. Not yet. Gotcha.
Not yet. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of, anticipation. There's a lot of predictions that are going around, and it's all just that. It's anticipation, and it's, hey, I think this is what's going to happen with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration. There are likely going to, and the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, there are likely going to be some changes that are going to go into play.
Definitely.
My guess, if I had to guess, is there's probably going to be a change with regards to VA loans, because right now, as the guidelines stand, the veteran cannot pay the buyer's agent commission. So there has to be something there, right? That has to get worked around, or maybe not, and that's just going to make it tougher for veterans to be able to get into home ownership. So I would guess that there's probably going to be some changes there. I know historically Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the FHA, VA, they're slow to do these things, right? So I wouldn't expect it next week. I would probably say July or afterwards and see what happens. But there's likely going to be some changes. Again, it's just going to be more strategy, more negotiation, more credits, which at the end of the day, like I said, it's good for the consumer when that happens. It's
absolutely.
Good for the marketplace.
For sure. Now, real quickly before we wrap up for today, in the description below, I will put some links in there for some myths that are flying around about this settlement. Just some quick summaries about what it means in case you're not familiar. So again, you just have a little bit more information and knowledge. If George and I can be of any assistance to you in any way, you got questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us.
We can't wrap this up without talking about some kind of program, right? Dude, I prepared a whole spiel. I got my laptop here that I'm just kind of reading through just to make sure that I don't get super nervous.
Let's do it.
But the reason why I'm talking about this is because April 3rd, we're about a week away. There's a program that's coming out for first-time home buyers that has absolutely nothing to do for NAR and this whole settlement and lawsuit that's going on. But I think it's super important for people to go ahead and really make sure that you're educated on, or that you're aware of it if you haven't heard about it already. But there's a program called the CaliHFA Dream for All program that's coming out for its second round, and they're starting to accept applications April 3rd through April 29th. So this is a program that literally went nuts. It went bananas last year for the first time. They had, I think, $500,000 or $300 million, and we ran through it in 9 days or something like that. And I had the opportunity, and I'm super blessed and thankful that I was able to help a ton of families purchase last year, but the money ran out really fast, and they're coming back with another round of funding. And that's going to start, they're going to start accepting applications April 3rd to April 29th. And so this program is going to provide up to 20% in down payment assistance for first-time home buyers.
Incredible.
Which is almost like unheard of, right?
Yeah, 20%, that's insane, yeah.
There's not a lot of programs that can provide that kind of assistance. So up to 20% in down payment assistance for first-time home buyers, or $150,000, whichever one is less. So as an example, you can buy a $700,000 home, and they'll give you they'll let you borrow $140,000 towards your down payment or closing cost. And how it works is that whenever you sell or refinance, you'll pay back that part of the assistance that they gave you, $140,000, plus a portion of the appreciation of your home, usually 20%. So let's say, for example, that you buy a $700,000 home, you get $140,000 in down payment assistance, and let's say 10 years later, Adam, you help them sell that home at $700,000 or at $800,000, right? Which is $100,000 more. Their appreciation would be $100,000, right? And so what's going to happen when they sell that home at $800,000 is you're going to give back that $140,000 that the state of California lets you borrow. You're not paying interest on it, but you got to give it back, right? You can't keep it. And then in addition to that, there's going to be an additional 20% of that appreciation that you have to give back. So the appreciation is from $700,000 to $800,000.
Right.
So that's $100,000. $20,000 goes to the state of California,
right.
and then $80,000 you go ahead and get to keep, right?
Gets back, yeah.
And so it's a really good program that has helped a lot of people. If you don't have the means to be able to come in with a strong enough down payment,
totally.
That is a good opportunity to go and capitalize. If you are someone that's already pre-approved, let's say with 3 to 5 to 10% down, but you just don't qualify for the neighborhood or the type of home or the quality of the home that you really want, this can help you increase your buying power.
Right, get you to where you want.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Now
totally.
it's not free money. I just mentioned it, right? You got to pay back the assistance and a portion of the appreciation. There's no free lunch, in this country, but it is an opportunity for you to be able to go and open up the door for more options for you. So something to consider. So I'll just touch base real quick or touch on a couple requirements real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. Minimum credit score that you're going to need to have is either going to be 660 or 680. Depending on how much money you make, and there's some income limits that are attached to it, but 660 or 680, depending on how much income you earn. And then you have to be a first-time home buyer, which means you cannot have ownership in a principal or primary residence in the last 3 years. And then you also, this is the biggest change from last year, you have to be a first-generation home buyer. And so what that means is that you cannot have had ownership in a property in the last 7 years, and your parents cannot currently own property in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, or if they've passed, they couldn't have had ownership in a property at the time of death, or if you have been in foster care or that system for any reason in the past. So first generation home buyer, first time home buyer, 660 or 680 or above credit score. And then the last piece is there are income limits that are assigned to it. In Contracostacounty, it's $234,000. Same for Alameda County. And every county is going to have a different level of income, but the income limits are relatively generous.
Are those income limits for married couples, individuals, or is there any difference altogether?
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So if it's 2 people, it's 234 total. Yeah. If it's
right.
1 person, 234, so on and so forth. And there's a little bit some more intricacies about the income and what's counted and what's not counted, etc. But chat with a loan officer or lender, whether it's me or anyone else that's approved to close on CalHFA programs like this one and has worked with the Dream for All program last year and is familiar with it. So we'll let them be, huh?
Yeah, I think that's good. If you're on the fence at all about thinking about buying or selling, and especially a program like George just outlined, just remember the supply that we have here in the Bay Area is super low. We do have good demand. So if you can get yourself into a property, we highly, highly recommend it. You will likely see that appreciation over time. It's a great way to, begin to build your nest egg or build your net worth by owning property. That's it. That's all we got for you.